August 9th, 2022. Who do we have coming up? Is Mr. McAdams here?
The McAdams firm is here.
Are you Mr. McAdams, or is it McAdams that you're representing?
I'm representing Mr. McAdams.
Well, you can be Mr. McAdams tonight if you want to.
John probably would not like that.
Okay, well then, you don't have to be then. No, come on up and, Mr. Hunsinger, are you, you gonna join them or just?
Let me make some opening comments to this presentation, if you don't mind.
Who's gonna go first?
The manager is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
Sorry.
ahead, Mike.
Good evening. We've got two things to do before 6:30 tonight. One is you will receive a presentation from McAdams on the options, Concept 1, Concept 2, over at Chestnut Park. And what we want you to do is to receive both presentations on both concepts. Don't get too far in the weeds at this point, but just provide feedback on what direction you want McAdams to pursue, okay? I just want to remind you that we are on a path that has been laid out for council. If you remember last year, you approved the Park and Rec plan, and over the last year, what you've done is you have had land design look at a 50,000-foot view of starting with the two parks, Chestnut and Crooked Creek, with the idea of what can we use the bond money for. You have $1,850,000 left in the bond fund that can only be used at those two parks, but also look at other town parcels for park development. In the meantime, the council decided after Land Design did their first work that you wanted to focus on Chestnut Square Park across the street, and that's what these folks are doing. In the meantime, on June 28th, we presented a report to you on the 7 parcels and what those possibilities are. That report we're going to discuss with you in September to see what kind of direction we want to get. So I've already mentioned that you've got $1,850,000 left in your bond fund. Those bonds were approved 8 years ago, and costs have gone up a great deal. The purchasing power of that is not nearly what it was 8 years ago. The two concepts are, one covers the stormwater pond and the other, and has a larger field, and the other has the smaller field. With the larger field, you can do more rentals with it, you've got more flexibility, but as you might imagine, covering a stormwater pond would be a more expensive option. The other thing I want to mention to you before I turn it over to them is that both concepts has a synthetic turf field. If you remember when they built the football field or 2 soccer fields a few years ago, they tried grass, and Tom, it didn't work very well, so they put synthetic turf in there. There's also an estimated 150 additional parking spaces. That was one of the things that you said is very important because parking's a problem across the street. It also has, both concepts has an added restroom. We also retain the walking paths, the playground equipment, so there's some activity for everybody. And my last point is that both Concept 1, Concept 2 will include the lighted field. So unless I missed anything, Todd, I'll turn it over to McAdams.
So, introduction. My name is Nick Lowe with McAdams. I'm not John McAdams. He's our founder, and he's actually a civil engineer. I'm a landscape architect. But actually do a lot of parks and recreation design, so this is the field I've focused on in my career and our team that's been working on the park, just as a little introduction of myself and our firm. We'll just dive on into Concept 1, and just keeping in mind with both concepts, there were some things we were trying to achieve. We realized that we were actually helped out with the Parks and Recreation Comprehensive Master Plan that was done 4 or 5 years ago. And one of the main things with this park, and it's still a problem for the park, is parking. So where can we find extra parking to service what's there, along with the other amenities that we would want to put there? But then also looking at some of the trails and some of the other connections from a taller view is, how can you make it safer for people to get to the playground? So parking next to it, how can we make more accessible connections, so more ADA routes with some of the trails, and how do we make them more accessible to everyone? That's one goal with this design, is not just to provide another field, but also provide recreation for everyone. So whether it's a trail or whether it's a restroom or a shelter, what can everyone do here as well? But then also looking at larger connections to the south, trying to connect to some other parks and rec amenities. So how do we connect this park to other parks? But also keeping in mind that, you know, you provide a very high-quality park in Indian Trail, and how do we take that stamp and stamp it over here to make sure we're keeping the quality the same? And you'll see that within some of these numbers. We're trying to keep this as high quality as what's across the road. So just looking at concept number one, this is the one where the stormwater pond goes away. And one thing to keep in mind with this field is we're providing a synthetic turf field, and it's also going to be lit. So that really is something that's going to be an asset for programming, to just keep the thing rolling on so that it doesn't have to take a rest. And when you're providing a field of this size, that's really important to make sure you keep it full. So starting to the west of the plan, we want to make a connection up to Matthews Indian Trail Road. There would be a little pedestrian bridge coming across to what we like to call the front porch of the park. So kind of an entrance that would be an arbor structure. And I can show you some images a little bit later of what that would feel like. But that would be an introduction to the park from the south. So it'd really be a front porch where people could sit and, I mean, you watch cars go by and, you know, introduce you to what's going on. It also could serve as a trailhead into the park. So if you see the darker line, that's actually our attempt to make sure we are grading at ADA. That would be an all paved path so that everyone could use, and it would connect into the park. And if you see the other lines that aren't hatched in, those are existing trails we'd like to maintain. So the idea is we don't want to destroy the forest we're trying to walk through and trying to enjoy. So that would connect into that upper parking lot. And the way the upper parking lot is arranged is, you know, I'm a parent of a 4-year-old. If I want to come to a playground, I want to park right at the playground and not walk across the street with him, because he'll run. So for any parent, that's important to have parking adjacent. But then also, if you're talking about programming a field for a tournament, it's real important to have adjacent parking for families to be able to walk right to the field. So the positioning of this parking lot serves twofold, as well as it does go with the grade and would cause less grading. Then looking on to the east, we thought that, you know, how do we get a full-size field so that you can run 2 U12s? So that was one of our goals, is to do U12 programming so you can see horizontally on the field. Both of those could be accommodated, as well as a full-length soccer. But also, with keeping in mind with this field, you could run other sports like lacrosse, field hockey, football. So those are just a few that could happen out there. And we have added a trail around. One thing we've seen with a lot of people, they request a mileage walking trail. So that's a 1/4 mile. So you could pace a mile off around that soccer field. So a lot of times if people are bringing their children to practices or a game, they want something else to do, so they'll walk that field while their child's playing. And then looking further to the west, we do know that Todd shared with us the plans for the extra parking that's happening across the road. So we thought that that was an opportunity to add even more parking, because we know there's not enough parking as is, and there's going to be parking lost into the future. So we wanted to try to maximize that to serve what's happening on site, and then try to supplement what's being lost. So those are some of the main features on this one. One other feature is trying to do a central bathroom. So put in the bathroom between the soccer field and the playground to try to service both, so that people aren't having to go across the street to the restroom. So were there any questions on concept one?
Yes. I have a question, Mr. Mayor. Can I?
Sure, go right ahead.
Can I, real quick? The black outline that I see from one end to another, that's a trail that you're going to make, right?
Correct.
So you mentioned around the track, around the soccer field there, it's a 1/4 mile, you said?
Yes, sir.
But then what about the rest? How much, any idea what distance that is?
I haven't measured the mileage of that
Figure
trail.
1/2 mile, you'd figure, if we
It
guesstimate?
probably would be.
Yeah.
just keep it in mind with the other trails as well. So we do need to do that calculation. Haven't done
No,
it yet.
no worries. That was my one question, sir.
And if, one other thing is, anywhere where you're seeing that dark hatch is going to be an asphalt trail, so it'll be paved.
Okay.
Okay.
I know that we've got very limited real estate there, and so.
Correct.
And I'm assuming probably you may go ahead and tell us what this is going to cost to put it over the detention pond.
Correct.
Yeah, so is it an outrageous amount of money? Or-
I mean, we're looking at 7.6 million for this one. And then a lot involved with this is we've taken numbers from other parks that we've done recently. We've recently been working on a park project in Lee County that has similar type facilities, and that was done by professional estimators. So at this point, we haven't sent it out to an estimator. We've taken our numbers in-house. So these are very conservative, because the last thing I want to do is give you a price that's too low and you want to do it, and then we come to find out we have a bunch of change orders later. So,
7.6 million for the detention pond, or this?
no, that's the
concept?
whole,
Okay.
that's the entire park. We're looking at about probably 100,000 for trying to do the detention underneath the soccer field. So the way synthetic turf works is you have aggregate below, so you can use that to create a bigger depth to do your stormwater detention underneath, to put it simply. So it's probably about 100,000 for that, but most of the big expenditure is coming from synthetic turf fields and lighting. That we've seen a pretty big price hike in that.
That's
and
really
then
not
if-
that bad, considering how tight the real estate is in our park.
Right, and that's one thing we wanted to consider is you've got a pretty good slope coming down and then flattening out. There will be some grading done in some fill that will have to be imported as well to fill in that pond to make it flat, so. But it does get better when you get more eastern part of the site. It does start to flatten out a little bit more. And that's one thing you'll see in the site preparation. That's one of the highest things we've been seeing with jobs lately is grading contractors are just making their own numbers, and there's going to be a lot of grading that needs to be
Printing
done
their
for
own
the
money,
site.
huh?
Yeah.
I have a question. I know you keep saying synthetic, and, it's a great thing to have. And I know that, regular old grass isn't what it used to be, but you have your maintenance, you have to take care of that and all that. But what would be you keep saying that synthetic is the most expensive part of it. What would you do if it were just back in the old days, you went back to the old grass field?
I mean, we'd probably put type of Bermuda.
And I mean,
And
but and price-wise, and I guess what I'm saying is what
So
what is the price of the synthetic?
so that field is 110 by about 60. And then we're seeing that turf come in at $1.25 a square foot. I mean, it might be about half because you're going to have to irrigate it as well. But we hadn't calculated what that is. I mean, I could make that number for you, but the reason why we settled on not doing the traditional turf is you take out a lot of the maintenance. Like, you're not having to let the field rest, so it's more playability. More people can use it, and you can get more revenue that way. But then also with those fields, you're always going to have an expense every year. But I want to be truthful about synthetic turf. You do have to change it out about every 8 to 10 years. But the maintenance we've seen is less on having that and the availability of it than doing typical turf.
How much do you estimate the turf itself to cost?
I've been seeing it come in for the type of turf we'd want at $1.50 a square foot, but I haven't done the square footage calculation for that yet.
So any guess?
So if it's 50 by 110, I don't have my phone on me. So it has 0.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
while he is calculating, one thing I forgot to put in my remarks is that we have looked and we have developed a funding strategy for both concepts. Both concepts would use some
Yeah, it's gonna be less than
unallocated fund
2.3.
balance, but it would
I
also
don't have the
use
irrigation
the
either.
$250,000 that the state has given you. It would use the bond fund, and right now your
Well,
fund
it was-
balance is about, unallocated fund balance is about
But
$18
that's
million,
not gonna be
and
right.
the
It's not gonna be
state doesn't want you to
$12,000
hoard
because you got
too
$1
much,
square
but
foot.
you would apply that. About 18.1, I think. Following the presentation, we can answer some questions. I'll have Jim to answer any financial questions.
So basically, Mike, you're saying With that 250, that'd be, we've got 2.1 million in our park fund.
Yeah.
It's
probably gonna be
Right.
$200,000.
The other thing I'll mention is we're actually ahead of schedule with this presentation. Originally supposed to be in September. So, you know, if we could get some direction in September, we can keep these folks on track. And Todd Hunsinger would be able to talk to you about a schedule, whichever concept you choose to move with.
What's that? Okay. So, probably about $200,000 for just typical turf.
And so you're saying the grass turf will be 100. You said it'd be about half.
Yeah, give or take, because I'm putting irrigation in there with too. So it's about $1.25 a square foot right now. So
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Are you saying it'd be 200,000 less for typical turf or just 200,000?
just 200,000 to install the turf. That's not even considering what you would do underneath it. I'm not sure that if you did do the regular turf, you'd be able to do a stormwater management structure underneath, because it doesn't drain the same way that the synthetic turf would. So we'd have to figure out another way to treat what's coming off the other part for that stormwater device.
So, sorry, can I ask a question, Mr. Mayor?
Sure.
All right, so what you're saying is, the way that you've designed concept one is for turf, because turf has a better way of draining, right, when it rains, and therefore, it'll be able to use the detention pond.
Correct.
If you put, and then when we say turf, we talk about synthetic, right?
Correct.
Synthetic, so your design is for synthetic to help with stormwater management. If you were to go to turf, real grass, I think it's Bermuda type 31 that's used for soccer,
Right.
you would then have to, it's not necessarily compatible as designed right now.
Right.
Because over the pond.
Yeah, because you'd have to figure out how you were going to handle the stormwater from the off-site. And
Good.
usually they don't accept that as a
Yeah.
management device, correct?
All right.
Mr. Mayor, one comment too. In the beginning with what they used to call AstroTurf, they had a lot of injuries on it. And it's changed dramatically now that you have less injuries on today's artificial turf than you have on dirt and Bermuda grass.
Correct. There is some cushioning beneath, but then also there's an infill that helps the turf stay up that is also another type of cushion that helps athletes. Pretty much what they say is Michael Vick changed the whole industry because they didn't want to get him hurt, and that's where a lot of that came from. But you're correct. It's
Okay, now, if I'm not mistaken, are we just talking, so far, we've just talked about the one concept, is that?
Correct.
Is that correct? Well, I think we probably, unless we have any more questions, let's move on to the,
And then just to clarify, before we move to the next one, the multi-use field on this one, we're looking at, it's 2.342 million for it and its lights, just so that you plop the field down, that's what we're seeing it would cost, So moving on to concept number 2. Okay.
Yeah, but make sure they understand that, this is a tool for them to use.
Right. And so what we've put on this conceptual plan is we've tried to break it down kind of as an à la carte. So we have the numbers that you see under each category. Each category has a price tag. And then under that, we have subcategories like there's on-street parking that's 90 degrees, it's 47 spaces. So that, we had a price tag of that is $69,000. So when you're looking through this and looking at the items, you can pair kind of an aspect of the project to an actual number. So those numbers coincide with the site key. So we want this to be a tool for you all to look through and see the budget and see what's the most important, and then kind of go through. And so say you said the shade structure is not important, we'll take $150,000 out, we can do that. This is kind of a tool we're providing to you all to land on a direction for us to go.
okay, I have a couple of quick questions. First of all, let's say you had a fairly, say we're not doing it here, say we're doing it somewhere else. Is because we're doing it at this particular location making it more expensive?
I wouldn't say that. I'd say some of it is the grading there, but there are if you did it on a completely flat site, it may be a little bit less, but you're still having to dig up under the field and push around dirt and bring in
Okay.
aggregate.
All right,
and-
So that, therefore, that's not much difference, but another thing is I remember when we built the field, which I think's a bigger field, the NFL field
It
out
is.
here. If I'm not mistaken, it was much less. Am I right to say that, Todd? Build that field was and I'm not saying, I know times have changed, so I'm just,
Yeah, the grant was for 250,000, and we paid an additional 700-something thousand. So it was $1 million.
So it's less, which is it not a bigger field than the field that we're looking at now?
Yeah, go ahead and answer that.
So a lot of what's going on there is it was already graded flat and it had its lights and it had all the other infrastructure done. So it's basically just swapping turf out and digging that profile. So there's a lot more that goes into, say, a fresh site that's never been developed. That's where you're getting a lot of savings is from a previously developed site.
Right. And I guess costs have gone way up too.
Oh, it's unreal. One day, plastic HDPE pipe will go up because somebody can't find it, or some factory in Texas can't make it because they don't have employees. So contractors have upped their costs from that as well. So there's a lot of different factors, but we've seen it just skyrocket.
So, just so that I'm clear on it and make sure everybody else is, when you said 200,000, you're just talking about the artificial turf. But, so if we do concept number one, from what I'm looking at, it's going to cost 2.4 million. And if we do concept number two, it's going to cost 1.1 million. Is that correct?
Right. So the
Okay, so-
$200,000 I was talking about is just a ballpark if it was just grass, not
Okay.
the synthetic turf.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at first I thought you were saying it was
No.
$100,000
No.
just to cover that whole thing. So we're talking a million.
Yeah.
Okay.
The facility's state-of-the-art.
Yes, sir. It would
is
be,
State-of-the-art stuff, so.
for sure. Yeah, it would be. Okay. So moving on to concept two, so we wanted to look at, well, what type of field could we fit in there that would be usable if we kept the stormwater pond and kept it functioning? So we can still fit the same trails through there. We can also fit some of the same parking, but the one thing is you're only going to get about half a field. And so with some talks with Councilman McIntyre, we landed on that, the 80 by 50 would probably be the best to run the most desired type of soccer out there, which would be U12. And we would look at doing an 80-yard by 50-yard field. So you'd still fit some extra parking and you could still fit that field, and it would be synthetic turf and lighted. So same type of field we're looking at in concept one, just half size, if you want to put it blunt. But a lot of the same features are put within this one, except you're just not putting that whole large field in there.
So basically, 2.3 million would be the cost of putting that double the size field and covering that retention pond. Pretty much
Right.
is where we're getting that figure.
And that's it. And with this one, we'd want to find some other storm measures for impervious, and we probably would have to alter that pond some sort of way to accept more impervious from our site. But I still think we could do some detention under this synthetic turf field to kind of counterbalance what we're redeveloping. So that would be another reason why that one would need to be synthetic turf as well to help with stormwater management.
Todd?
But with the retainage pond staying there and being more advantageous for stormwater runoff, wouldn't that make it more practical that we could possibly then do more of a natural field instead of a synthetic, which seems to be a lot cheaper?
I think you could, but the loss you get with playability, it's almost like it's not worth the cost to do it if you can't just keep cycling people through and get more people to play. But we'd also have to find some other ways, we're adding impervious with a parking lot, 2 different parking lots to treat that stormwater, whether it's under that field or through other methods,
Well,
yeah.
We're using, and let the Hunsaker can answer this, but we need stormwater input. We could use stormwater funds, correct?
Can we do that, Todd?
You know,
Yes, that's possible, but as you know, we would have to go through the stormwater committee to ask that, and They're not in favor of using those type of funds, to be brutally honest to y'all. They're not going, again, they're advisory committee, but they just don't like the fact we want to use stormwater funds in a park. So, but it is possible.
I got a question. On both of these plans, there's no grandstand or any seating, for people wanting to watch the soccer game and?
So what we're looking at on these, there's a 15-foot buffer on the side, and with a lot of these fields, people will just bring their chairs in. So we could add bleachers in that extra 15 feet, but on the concept one, we would see actually, people could sit on the hillside there as well. So like some of the older football stadiums you see, but most of it's going to be people bringing in their chairs.
Okay.
So I know some of you have mentioned grass. Part of the problem with grass is when it rains, you can't play. You also have to let the field rest as well. That's one. So reason we're looking at putting another field is because we went from 2 to 1 to help the Parks and Recs department be able to serve more people than they could in the past. The other thing is when we built that field over there, I remember driving by it several times and was 2 years, Adam, that we couldn't play on it, on the grass, because the grass just didn't grow. So there are some limitations with grass. Most fields that are being built now, they're being built brand new, whether it's in, I think Monroe just got one, or Sun Valley has one. If they're being built, you put synthetic material down. People say it lasts 8 to 10 years. That's true, but that's if it's getting heavy use day in, day out, 24/7 a day. Most of our parks, in terms of usage, comes in the evenings, if I'm not mistaken, and on weekends during the day sometimes. But that's the advantage. That's the advantage that you have versus some other ones. So I mean, it's just food for thought. I've been here a little while, so I've seen some of that. But it's just food for thought for the rest of the council, just from the grass standpoint. It may save some money, but the thing is, you don't want it just kind of sitting there not being able to be used, and more complaints coming to Hayden.
I'll piggyback on that comment just because grass is a living thing. So once you put it in, it does need a time period to root in where you're not having people play. So I know sometimes from a perspective of constituents, it's like, why can't we play on this field? Well, it's got to grow in. So that could be 3 to 6 months, depending on the season you put it in.
And the only other thing that I want to add to that is you can't play on grass when it's not growing. So if it's not growing, you can't. So during the winter time, so around here, you figure after about November,
Yep.
you're done until March, April timeframe. So that's the only window that you get to play on a grass field from heavy use play. Now, can me and Marcus go out there and kick a soccer ball? Yes, that's not, but from a
Beat you too, by the
game
way.
play or from a program play or something like that, it's just, it doesn't allow it to happen. That's what happened to us over here.
From an environmental standpoint, too, you're going to have herbicides and pesticides, and you're going to have a whole lot more of that, and you already have exhaust, whatever cars leave behind that's washing in from other areas into that detention pond. So environmentally, artificial turf's much more sound for our pond anyway.
And Mr. Mayor, just one thing I'll just add before he goes on. Concept one, you get 2 fields there, so that helps you hitting from a programming standpoint. Maybe not for a bigger game, but you have the other field. But also, too, the grass that's used on these fields is, I think, Bermuda grass type 31. Actually, there's a local Indian Trail company that grows that. But the thing is, that's a warm weather grass. So once it gets cold, it goes dormant. And then once you play on it, it erodes. I tend to see this, and I've been to a couple places where you're playing on dirt because people play during the winter. So
Well, synthetic's the way to go.
that would be my recommendation.
Todd?
Well, kind of, are you finished? I'm sorry.
I just want to go over one other thing on the cost.
Kind of where I'm
Yeah.
at is, concept one's just too expensive. I'd like council to have an opportunity to talk with staff, and I appreciate the way you did this with a line item, because we can beat down the cost. I mean, people are already walking across the street to go to the restroom, so we don't necessarily need a restroom. And I don't know what the shaded thing is, but you take out a couple of things here and there, you get this thing under 4 million on subtotal. I don't know what this 15% contingency fee is, but,
Basically, that's us trying to think if the project waits, you know, there's just, we always put a 15% contingency in the economy just to blanket anything that's crazy
kinda like
that's been going
worst-case
on.
scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I understand
That's
that.
exactly
So
right.
So that could be reduced then.
So this thing may come in a lot, you know, then when you're talking about 1.8 in the park bond, if we want to use general funds, and, or maybe we can discuss, and you might can answer this, would ARPA funds qualify, or I mean, I'm sorry, but surplus funds would qualify for this?
Surplus funds would, ARPA would not.
Right, okay, so, you know, I kind of like some options of maybe getting council input on what we can cut. We might not necessarily need a restroom for, you know, of course, you get older, you like to have it over there, but and the kids too, I understand that. But that's kind of where I'm at, so.
I'll just go over one more thing. The price of the second one is about 4 million. So kind of looking at the brevity between the two, it's, we got it at 4.1. I just want to roll through some of the conceptual slides to give an idea of the flavor of the park. So you can see the synthetic turf field at the top. And then we definitely, any type of shelter or restroom, we would definitely like to mimic what's happening on the other side of the road to keep things consistent and keep it high quality. Moving on to the next, this is the idea we're talking about with that shade structure at the entry. You can, you know, up or down with the price, but it's the idea of having a front porch to the park and kind of a place for the community to gather and sit and have a trailhead there. So just something that's a placemaking that makes it, you know, Indian Trail makes it a little bit nicer like you're at other parks.
It's nice, I never use it, but it looks nice.
Right. And then this is some ideas with some screening. We do have a neighbor that actually encroaches on the site, and the trail goes real near him, so you kind of feel uncomfortable down there. So trying to be good neighbors, but also trying to create a safer experience for people. We'd want to try to do some type of buffering, whether it's trying to do some type of metal screens or plantings, or even do some type of educational screen down there for people to be blocked from that resident. But then also, that's the idea of a little pedestrian bridge that we could use up there to connect across to the sidewalk and kind of go more towards town, so.
Any other questions?
Yeah, one last question. The parking lot, which is closer to the playground, that parking lot would give service to people with younger kids who go to the playground, right?
Right.
That's the design there?
Exactly right.
So they could just park there, not have to cross the street with that bump there?
And we would actually have a little entrance to the other side of the playground that would connect directly to the parking lot, is what we would see happening, and that's just putting a gate in that fence, so.
All right.
Okay, if we don't have any more questions, I'll thank you for coming and doing that. And I just want council to know too, that this is nothing that we're deciding on today or tomorrow or next week. It's something that we can all sit and think about. I also want the council to think about also that, you know, possibilities of maybe, just other things to think about, possibilities of other places to put the ball field. To put the soccer field. Not necessarily, does it have to be across the street, but make sure that we do the most cost efficient, because I know we're all sitting here thinking that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money and I know it's today's times, you know, it's just so much more than it was not too long ago. But anyway, appreciate everybody listening, and appreciate you coming. So with that being said,
Mr. Mayor, just as a point of clarification, what are you looking for from staff? Are you looking for us to schedule this in September for further dialogue, and in the meantime, reach out to the council to get their input, or just?
yeah, I think that gives us a month to,
Okay.
you know, to sit around and not sit, necessarily have to sit around. That's kind of not a good way to put
You're
it.
sitting too
But
much, man.
to talk about it,
Eh.
and we can talk about it and get things done, and maybe come up with, hey, is it too expensive or not?
Yeah.
Whatever we want to do,
And we'll have a finance plan for whichever way y'all want to go.
okay?
All right.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Mike, and I appreciate everything you said, and bathroom break, and bring on the 6:10 closed session tonight. NCGS 14331811A5 regarding potential land acquisitions, parcels number 071140700, 071140700A, and 7114070B, 707114072E, 07114072B. Can I get somebody to
I make a
make a
motion to go into closed
closed
session.
session? Yes, sir.
Make a motion to go into closed
All in
session.
favor? Unanimous. You ready? Let's go. Unanimous. I need a motion to close 5:30 meeting.
Make a motion to close the 5:30 meeting.
All in favor? Unanimous. Very good. Okay. Are we ready? All right, that brings us to the 6:30 PM regular meeting on Tuesday, August the 9th, 2022. If everyone will stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you'll remain standing for a moment of silence. Please be seated. Okay, brings us to agenda additions and deletions. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to add item 10A, proclamation rescinding the state of emergency. Delete item 7G to be street acceptance heritage subdivision streets. Add item 7I as in India, resolution number one, second installment of American Rescue Funds.
All in favor? Unanimous.
Mayor, may we add one more, please? Could we add the closed session minutes from 7:12 to the consent agenda as a part of number 2 as well?
Make a motion to add the closed session minutes from the 7:12 agenda.
Okay, all in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you, Mr.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, we don't have any presentations tonight. How about public comments? Do we have any signed up public comments? If anybody here would like to sign up, I think do we have anybody that wants to speak? Well, if you would, come up and sign.
I'm so grateful. We have Clarence, public comments. Thank you.
Well, while we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and read the town rules for addressing the Indian Trail Town Council during council comments. These rules are established by the Indian Trail Town Board and apply to the public comment participants. As a reminder, they are read at each meeting before public comments are received. The board thanks you for sharing your thoughts and concerns. Please state your name and jurisdiction where you pay taxes clearly for the record. Please elect a representative for multiple individuals having similar messages. Each speaker or representative will have 3 minutes to state their concerns. Comments should be directed to the entire board and not to specific individuals. Speakers are to remain respectful with reasonable standards of civility. Please refrain from communicating grievances regarding town staff in this forum. We ask that you redirect those to the town manager. All documents submitted to the board become town property and may be available as requested. Anonymous general written public comments will be read. Regarding comments for public hearings, anonymous writings will be read All other written public comments will be read for a restricted period of 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, remaining written comments will be noted as either opposing or supporting. Any speaker may be asked to discontinue or be disallowed to speak by the board if the rules are violated. And last, comments may be recorded and broadcasted on the internet. Okay. We have two tonight, so is it Clarence, also Brooks? Oh, Clarence, I'm sorry. I didn't see, you must have snuck in.
I'm sure I've been called worse.
Come on up, Clarence.
All right, thank you for your time. You have to forgive me, Mayor, Council, thank you for your time. It's been one of those days. I had an appointment today at 4 o'clock. I was going to write down everything I had to say. The lady showed up late for the appointment. Then there was a lot of traffic trying to get here, and I was late. But I wanted to talk, I'm sure you guys have opportunity for a lot of people to disagree with you on things, but I want to come praise somebody tonight. I had a situation about a month ago where I was coming home late from work, and one of my tenants called me, and she said very calmly, "Clarence, your house is on fire." And I was like, whoa. So, and from her perspective, I just bought a house that I was going to rent out. Didn't need a lot of work and everything, and no problem. So I was thinking, well, Lord, if this house is on fire, then, you know, it is what it is. But when I got home and I ran down the road, I noticed it was the house that was behind my house that was on fire. So with that said, I got there and the firefighters were fighting the fire and everything. And it really came to me that, you know, when you need them, there's no amount of money or anything for what they're doing. And thank God my house was saved, so I was able to rent it out. Unfortunately, the other house was lost. But I came to kind of give praise to one council member. I won't tell you his name, but his initials start with T and end with A, but you can guess who it is. But I want to say thank you, Tom, because I know Tom spearheaded the movement to get fire trucks. And when you use his name around firemen, they're pretty happy and they praise him a lot. I think I remember around election time, he had this big old banner out there, and I think it was a little higher than regulation, but I know the firemen love them. And I just want to say thank you for what you're doing for Town of Indian Trail, or for the fighters altogether, because it made a difference when I saw. And you think, okay, they have the equipment they need, and what would it be like if they didn't have the equipment they needed to fight that fire, and I would have lost my house. So I want to say thank you for spearheading that. And Town Council, Mayor, thank you. You do a great job. I know you put in hard work, so I really appreciate you, and that's my time. So, all right.
Thank you. Beverly Arson.
It's Carson. Those are tiny spaces. Thank you. I didn't come with anything prepared. I came to support my brother who was going to speak tonight. When I got here, I heard I was speaking tonight. We have a major concern we need your help with. I know it's not your district. I know it's not something you control. I have written the North Carolina Utilities Commission over and over and over again. Nobody responds. The sewer bills in the Hemby Acres neighborhood and the surrounding area have gotten ridiculous. When we first went with Carolina Water, it was about $50 every 3 months. We are now paying almost $90 per month, and they want an increase. It's got to stop. That's more than most people's power bill. We live in a home with 2 people, and I'm paying the same sewer bill as people with 10 people in their family. That's not fair. I am a senior citizen on Social Security. Y'all got to help us stop this. So what do we need to do? What's y'all's answer?
Well, this is not the way we don't do this at public comments, but I will tell you that we will find it, because I don't know that we do have an answer right now.
Okay.
But we'll try to help find the answer.
I think our goal was to let you.
Because I know everybody up here works for the people of Indian Trail, and that's generally what they want to do.
Right.
And I spoke with your brother, and I'm not supposed to be speaking now, but I'm doing it anyway. But I spoke with your brother earlier, and you know, we're all not on this same system. So
Right.
some of us are not really aware of possibly what you guys are doing, but you know, there needs to be a conversation about it.
Right,
So,
and I need y'all's help because I can't get anywhere as a private citizen.
right.
They don't even respond to my emails, my phone calls, nothing.
We will. So respond, make sure you get in touch with the council people here.
Okay.
And we need to sit down and we need to help. I'm not guaranteeing you that we can, that it's in our jurisdiction to do that, but we'll try. I
Okay,
can tell you that.
that's all we're asking, is that y'all back us up.
Y'all annexed us in 20 years ago.
That, sir, this is not how we do it, but.
You can't address them. You didn't
But
sign.
and I don't mean to be that way, we generally don't do that, but anyway, I understand, and believe me, we're here to help.
We really should have come to y'all long ago. We've let it go to the point we can't survive at this rate anymore.
I understand your frustrations.
Yeah,
I really
so.
do.
Okay,
I really do.
thank you. I think you had something. Thank y'all.
And I will give council a chance to give council feedback at the end of public comments. So give us 3 or 4 more minutes, and some of them may want to talk, so.
Okay, thank you.
All right? That's all we can do. We have one more email that was written in. It's from Jonathan Baer. It reads, Honorable Mayor David Cone, please read these contents below verbatim for the public comments. This intent of this letter is to tell the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey famously said, because there has been much misinformation and outright lies spread about me. Who was primarily responsible for this and who continues to advance these lies may be explored at another time. For this portion, I will share with the public proposals I have hoped to introduce to the council for consideration, discussions, and exploration, and for the government of the town of Indian Trail to implement. Had the town of Indian Trail residents the opportunity had to entertain these ideas, such much more to see them to fruition than we could have been to envy of the Carolinas, if not the entire Southeast. Indian Trail would have had been a booming and busting economy while other municipalities struggled during economic downturns. In 2010, I attended my first ever town council meeting for Indian Trail and expressed the purpose to educate those in government about what I learned regarding the concept of a constitutional sheriff, because I became aware the council had been considering whether to continue the Union County Sheriff's Office contract or to create a police department. It was at this time I tried to impress upon the council not only the importance of having a long-term contract with the UCSO, but also the portions of things to come, namely of those the economic and individual liberty, unless we prepare for such emergencies. At the time, Indian Trail Town Council consisted of Mayor Quinn, Councilman Goodell, Allen, Hollinger, and D'Onofrio, and Councilman Luther. Their initial response was positive and enthusiastic. Staff encouraged me to join their Public Safety Committee. Since 2010, after much research, I began brainstorming and formulating a blueprint for Indian Trail that was based on the principles of individual liberty, checks and balances, sound weights and measures, Constitution and common law, and economic freedom, just to name a few. It was at Parks and Recreation meeting when we were discussing ideas of future ways for future uses of the flood zone at Crooked Creek Park that Director Jason Tryon embraced the concept of adding a type of bird sanctuary that would include, but not be limited to, peacocks, pigeons, peafowl, pheasants, quail, and other game of exotic birds at no additional cost to the taxpayers. The town would have partnered with civic and charitable organizations like the Boy Scouts and the Carolina Waterfowl Rescue and Sanctuary. Schools and university would provide the construction for a walk-in mesh boardwalk, or would contain. Is that it?
Time's up.
Is it? All right, time's up. All right. All right, so that concludes public comments. Now let's go to comments, council comments. Anybody want to? Go ahead, Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Officer Brooks. I too, we've heard a lot of people really happy about the fire truck, so thank you for coming up here and saying that. To address your thing about the water and sewer, we do kind of use the fact that Indian Trail residents are the largest customer base for water and sewer for the county. There was talk at one time, we went back and forth with an agreement between the town and the county that never got finalized. So, yeah, and I know Councilman McIntyre and we've sat down with other county commissioners, and David Williams, county commissioner, lives in Indian Trail. I suggest you reach out to him. He is an Indian Trail resident. Other than that, I don't have an answer other than we're trying, but, I mean, Union County doesn't have its own water source. 2 of the sewer plants are reaching, capacity. So they have done some things. So I would suggest you reach out to the county and get the information on what they're doing, and reach out to the county commissioners also. That's probably your best bet.
David Williams.
Marcus?
Mr. Mayor, I know this is probably unusual, but would it be possible for me to get both your names, you and your brother, if you don't mind? If you can leave it with the town clerk, your names and your phone numbers. And then I just want to understand your situation a little better. I know you had a little time, you didn't really prepare, but a phone call between us that way I can understand it a little better. Thank you. Mr. Alsobrooks, good job on, well, I'm sorry that your neighbor lost their house, but it's good to know that the fire department was there. I remember when this was being discussed, I always said let's hope we don't need them, but when we do need them, that they're there and they're able to do this. So it's unfortunate somebody lost their house, but nobody lost their lives, and the firemen turned up when they did. Hopefully next year they'll be turning up in some brand new trucks, so good job. Thank you, sir.
Very good.
Where is Hemby Acres?
It's behind the food line on Idlewild. We were here before any of y'all existed. We were in the
Food
town
line.
of Vance when we moved.
Is that over there around
7
Hemby
years ago.
Bridge?
Yeah,
Okay.
Shirley Howe's old neighborhood.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Y'all came in and annexed, and jumped on us and took the neighborhood,
And left all the outskirts for Hemby Bridge.
right.
in Stallings.
And
But
so,
yeah, we were the town of Vance when we bought our home 47 years ago.
Yeah, and there's still parts of Vance, little bitty pieces of Vance here and there and everywhere, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you for bringing that to our attention, and hopefully something can be done about it.
Hopefully y'all can get somebody to respond. They're not
Right,
gonna
we will.
The state
So,
looks
quick-
at it and goes, okay, give them more money.
the question,
Okay,
that's
that brings us to law enforcement. Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis, go ahead.
my question is, I know the Irvin Company built those years ago. Did they contract with a private sewage company? Is that,
The Griffin built the housing development years ago.
uh-huh.
We were with Union County Water and Sewer until y'all annexed us.
Well,
Then we became Carolina Water, which is a private thing. We haven't been private but maybe 10 or 12 years. But we were Union County Water and
at
Sewer.
one point, we were Union County, and then the plant got sold. We still, we pay water bills in Union County now.
So we
Just
pay
water,
over
but not
on
sewer.
top of the sewer bill.
That's interesting. Okay, thank you very much.
Marcus, you done?
No, I'm done, sir.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Adam, do you have a comment?
I was just going to say, it is private, so they pay private sewer to Carolina Water, which used to be Aqua of Carolina. Their water bill is still at Union County, so they have Union County water lines that run in front of their house. So it is a private sewer contractor that services that area. They also service the rest of Beacon Hills and I think all of Chrismark, the same sewer contractor.
So literally our little section's
Yes,
the
ma'am.
only one that's paying that bill.
Parts of I'm saying those are in Indian Trail. Those are the areas that pay that amount.
Well, let me ask this question to you, Adam, because you're very knowledgeable on a lot of things. What's the difference in what they do and say that what Bonterra has, or another?
So the rest of Indian Trail pays kind of how she talked about, like we pay based off of how much we use at our house. So like I pay off of how many gallons go through the sewer system, where they pay a flat rate. That's what their sewer provider has chosen to do. They pay a flat rate no matter if they didn't flush a single toilet for the whole month or take a shower, or whether they constantly let the water run the whole month. They're going to pay the same fee.
So how did they get kicked out of Union County sewer?
I don't know that end of the story.
That was years ago.
Yeah, and when we were Union County, if you had a $20 water bill, you had a $20 sewer bill, and you paid $40.
Todd?
So the county contracts with that company and they do the billing. So is it a contractual
No,
rate?
they have their own private sewer treatment plant.
But I mean, since the county bills,
The county doesn't bill them. They get a bill for sewer, and they also get a bill for water. Their bill for water comes from Union County Public Works. Their sewer bill comes from Carolina Water.
okay, well, that's where you would need to
And
go.
is it safe for me to say that most residents in Indian Trail don't?
It's only that area of town that gets a bill
And that's
that
why I
way.
apologize. To be honest with you, I didn't really even know that anything like that existed, to be honest with you. I
Kinda
mean,
like the old people got kicked out. You know, our neighborhood's old people that have been there 40 years, and we got kicked out of Union County sewer.
well, I agree that something, you know,
Yeah.
we'll do our best to
Apparently,
get
somebody
you.
came along and offered them a whole lot of money and they took it.
And I mean, we pay Union County taxes and Indian Trail taxes. Somebody out here needs to claim us.
Right, there you go. I agree. Okay, all right, let's move on. Thank you for coming. One of the best comments we've had come up. And with that comes Captain James, man. Good to see you again.
Mr. Mayor and Council, glad to be here. Before you, I've laid the report from the month of July. 210 reportable incidents last month, which was down from June, and actually a pretty significant hit down from June. 483 business checks and 3,573 preventative patrols. On the crash side, 115 total crashes, which was also staying about level, but it's down just a hair. And our injuries are staying about level as well, with 18 last month. And then 6,122 calls for service for the month of July. Couple things I'd like to say before I take your questions. I wanted to thank the council, and especially Councilwoman Buholic, for the help and the heading up that Adopt a Cop. I know my guys were, I don't know what to say. It looked like Christmas in July in my office with guys that couldn't come to the National Night Out. So thank you very much, and for the rest of the council that helped with that. Also for the National Night Out, I saw the majority of you there in some shape, form, or fashion, whether I was soaking wet or afterwards after I was dry. But the ones of you that participated with that and helped with it, thank you so much. It was a great turnout again. I never would have expected that many people there. And then also just a reminder about the school supply drive that we're finishing up this week. We're still taking donations at the office and still taking donations here at Town Hall as well. And I'd like to thank Ms. Abby for everything she's done with that, pushing that on the town social media stuff. But I'll be glad to take any questions that you may have. And then I have a couple introductions to make as well.
Do we have any questions?
Well, National Night Out, thanks for y'all doing that. That was great. I do have a question is, maybe you could tell us, and I know what took so long when the two tractor trailers that shut down 74 over there?
Yes, sir.
Let's understand that DOT sent a team and
It was
a lot of people want to know, so I just, I understand, did they come from Wilmington or somewhere?
They did. The light team came from Wilmington. The crash happened a little bit after 3 a.m. Two tractor trailers in the intersection of West Chapel Stouts or Sardis Church on the Sardis Church roadside in 74. One turning left, the other one struck one headed westbound. After the initial impact, they hit two light poles, which was both corners on the QT side and the Aldi side. Striking those two poles pulled the lines down across Sardis Church Road, as well as bringing the lights down across 74 on both sides. From the initial response that we had, it was the three guys that I had working the shift that night with their sergeant, and then the SHP, or Highway Patrol Response, which was one person. They were left with trying to shut 74 down and divert it initially. As we got them more help and more people, because initially at 3 o'clock in the morning, traffic was totally different than it was going to be at 6 a.m. So from 3 to 6, they were running it through parking lots, through the QT parking lot, cutting the corner, and through the gas station. I think it's the Exxon on the other corner. That worked till 6. So when traffic started to impact to where we had to shut it down, the nearest intersection we had to shut down westbound was Rocky River Road.
Yeah, that's far.
To push them to the bypass.
Yeah.
That's a long way. On the eastbound side, the closest intersection is Faith Church Road. Well, you know, I'm running out of people to be able to put at different intersections to try to keep everybody moving in one way. And we did. That was a all-day event. We finally pulled up, my guys came off of that event a little bit after 7 p.m. So, what, 16, 17 hours that they stood directing traffic. We pushed it out news-wise. I started pushing it to the news at 4 a.m. I gave it to Abby. Abby helped, and our PIO, they were just as hard as they could trying to keep people away from it. But irregardless, it was a mess. We had, you know, when you're depending on other agencies to come in to help to clean it up. We did have a delay with DOT, which was a contract company that they sent along with their people. And then basically after that 17 hours, got it up to where we could open the road. It wasn't finished. They were going to come in another night in the middle of the night to actually finish it and close lanes again. So that was a nightmare event. One of those situations where that we've had conversations individually about how to move in a catastrophe, how to move people about Indian Trail. Because, you know, we're not set up in a grid system like most towns are. So if you take a right and take another right and take another right, you cut a circle. That's not the case here. So the trying to divert traffic, and then, you know, there's a lot difference in diverting traffic on Indian Trail Road compared to 74, where you're talking about the number of cars being so much more significant.
Well, anyway, a lot of people thought y'all did a great job.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Y'all
I
did
know a
good.
lot of people didn't either, too.
Well, you know, but y'all did a good job when the bus caught on fire here. Was that last week? You know,
Seems like it.
yeah, you know, and you did a good job here directing traffic. I noticed you in front of the Presbyterian Church.
Anything to help.
You still got it, huh?
Well, there's still some soul rubber in the middle intersection up there where I melted. Yeah, anything to help.
Any other questions?
I got one. This is on a different matter. All these breaking and entering into cars or motor vehicle theft, I think it's down, what's your neighborhood, Dennis, down that way?
Colton Ridge.
Colton Ridge.
Yeah, Colton Ridge, where the lady fired at the people and they fired back at her. But I hear it's happening in Brandon Oaks. Are we getting, I heard someone saw an SUV one night.
Oh.
Just as recently.
Not the fired shot. It's just
No.
Colton Ridge. Okay.
Just their outbreak. Are we getting anywhere on those investigations?
It's constantly. Every one we've had up this far, and I'm not sure Tyler may be able to answer that when I introduce him, but everything up to that point, car being E-wise, has been, I'm almost positive, has been solved. And I don't know where they're coming with that particular case, but I'm glad to check and find out.
They're probably driving in from Charlotte or somewhere, I would think, you know. and
That's
making
a good
their rounds in
assumption.
the neighborhood. Thanks, man.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if there's no more questions, would you continue with your?
First, Trevor Hill couldn't be here. He's our new guy we brought in for community services that's actually doing traffic crash. He had a conflict with an off-duty job and couldn't be here, but I want to tell you a little bit about him. He's 25 years old. He came to us from Pineville Police Department, where he began his career in 2018. He came to us in 2019, and then actually went to court security for a short period of time, and then came to Indian Trail. He was assigned to the Patrol Division, Indian Trail. left here, went to the SAFE unit, DWI Task Force, where he's been up until now when he's come back to Indian Trail. During his time away, he became a certified traffic crash reconstructionist. So not only I have one, now I have two that's certified to do traffic crash reconstruction. And I'm blessed to have him back. I couldn't be more happy to have him back. He's doing a great job. Second person I want to introduce is Tyler Leonard. If you want to stand up or come on down. Tyler actually started off as an Indian Trail contract deputy when he came to us. Served about 1.5 years before being promoted to detective. As a detective, he worked mainly the southern portion of Union County for 1 year and then was moved to Indian Trail as one of the additional investigators that was helping Monte Calvo. He's investigated Indian Trail cases for over 1 year prior to becoming the second Indian Trail contract detective. Prior to coming to the sheriff's office, he was born and raised in southern Colorado, which is where he began his career in 2015. He's a twin that actually began his law enforcement career with his twin brother. He worked for the Kansas City Police Department in Colorado for just shy of 3 years before he moved to North Carolina with his wife, Casey. He and his wife have 2 sons, Calix, who is 2 years old on the 12th of this month, and Miles, who is 3 months old. Also this month, he's going back to school to obtain his bachelor's degree in criminal justice with a focus on public administration. Mr. Tyler Leonard, his new detective, is coming up here in the contract position. Thank you, Tyler. And then last but not least is Chris McTeague. Chris is our new crime scene investigator. And I won't say new because that doesn't fit the bill. Chris is originally from Ohio. He's an Indian Trail resident and been here since 2003. He and his wife Debbie have 3 kids, and their youngest is a sophomore in high school. He is a member of the International Association for Identification Certified Crime Scene Analyst, Level 2. He worked 6 years for CMPD, was a CSI shift supervisor when he left. He spent 1 year with the Department of Defense in Fallujah, Iraq on the NCIS forensic team, and he was hired by Sheriff Cathy in 2007 as the first full-time CSI, and he's currently the most senior CSI in the Sheriff's Office. I told you I was going to bring you some talent, and you got him. On a personal note, I had Chris when I supervised investigations, and he's one of the best. You got people all over the state calling this guy right here when they've got questions about working crime scene. But couldn't be, again, more blessed to have him, and I'm happy for y'all that you got him. Chris McTeague. Thank you. And that's all I have for you, unless you have anything else for me.
No, unless we have any more questions. I would like to welcome both of you. We considered it an honor for you to come tonight and an honor to have you. And Officer Hill, it's kind of nice meeting you for the first time. Congratulations on your 3-month-old. I have a 4-month-old.
That's Tyler, I believe.
That's Tyler Leonard.
I'm sorry.
That's Leonard. I'm sorry. Tyler Leonard. Hill was the one that couldn't be here.
Okay, I'm sorry, but congratulations on your new baby. I have a 4-month-old, this grandchild. Not grandchild.
Thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah.
And Chris, I've had the pleasure, Officer McTeague, to meet you several times over the years, and it's quite an honor for us to have you, and we're glad you're here.
It's great to have the best out of Ohio down here, you know what I'm saying, Abby?
We tried.
We're both from Ohio, too.
Now, I've worked real hard to get that out of him, so don't bring that back.
What part of Ohio are you from?
The Wheeling, West Virginia side, just inside the border, so
Okay.
Pittsburgh side.
Okay. Yeah, I used to run a restaurant up in Gallipolis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Nobody else, okay. That brings us to the consent agenda. Can I get a motion for the consent agenda? Somebody?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
All in favor? Unanimous. No public hearings tonight. Old business. ARPA update. Mr. McLam.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Well, I will start out with good news that y'all already got one time, but I'll say it for the second time to y'all. We have received our second check from the federal government for ARPA. So that is for roughly $6.35 million. So we have now officially received the full amount that we were scheduled to receive of $12.7 million. Go through a couple of projects just to continue to keep y'all updated on things. First Avenue Stormwater Project, which we are paying for out of ARPA dollars, is under construction. It's been under construction a couple of weeks. Todd's team's overseeing that project. There is still about $700,000 available to allocate in ARPA dollars, and that would have to go in one of two pots. That would either go in infrastructure or that would go in premium pay. Those are those two pots that are left. Now, Councilmember Barber, you asked me earlier about surplus funds, so now let's talk about surplus funds for a second. One of those surplus items that we did with funds was fire trucks, as was talked about a while ago. We have on the agenda tonight for y'all to approve those lease agreements with all three volunteer fire departments. So what we'll do is at the end of giving this, then we'll do a motion for each one of them separately for their lease agreements. Melanie has gone through those lease agreements. The fire chiefs have already, and their organizations have already signed them. They're just needing the approval for them to be signed by the town. We are working with the VFW. They have the draft agreement that we have sent to them. We are waiting for a meeting with them to schedule any comments and different things that they have. They've sent back a few, and we've answered a few back and forth questions. Water lines with Union County. We had a couple of conversations and emails back and forth with them last week. They are working on an interlocal agreement between us and them before they can kick off that project. So they are in the process of doing that right now. As soon as we get that, we'll get that reviewed internally by staff and by Melanie, and then we will get that sent back off to them. We are working with the three organizations that 2 council meetings ago y'all approved for nonprofits. So we have sent information to Food for Families. We are waiting to hear back from them on a little bit of extra information we needed from them. We have heard back to date from Common Heart and from Cameron's House of Hope. We are working on fine-tuning the details of what the town will be purchasing and then surplusing for the use by those organizations. We are still waiting to hear from a couple of organizations that we had heard originally from either council or from the public that wanted us to potentially look at the use for surplus dollars. That would be the Boy Scouts, Lions Club, Back to School Bash, Union West Rotary, and American Legion. So we have not had any final information come from any of those organizations. With that, I will end my presentation and wait for y'all for motions or any questions.
Any questions? Go right ahead, Marcus.
Do we have a time limit? I know we have 4 years from the date of receipt to make that decision, but in terms of the 700, do we have a time limit as to the instructions?
So we have to allocate those dollars no later than December 31st of 2024.
Oh, okay, good. All right, that's, okay. I thought we had an immediate time limit.
We need to allocate them as soon as possible, but that is by law, by ARPA law, that's the latest time frame that we have to go with any of those dollars.
Okay.
Any other questions? With that being said, do we have anyone that would like to do the motions on the 3 fire trucks?
I'll take a stab at it, man. Ready?
Yes.
All right. I make a motion to approve the lease agreement between the Town of Indian Trail and the Bakers Volunteer Fire and Rescue Department regarding leasing a fire truck to their department.
All in favor? Unanimous.
Second motion, I make a motion to approve the lease agreement between the Town of Indian Trail and the Hemby Bridge Volunteer Fire Department regarding leasing a fire truck to their department.
All in favor? Unanimous.
And finally, I make a motion to approve the lease agreement between the Town of Indian Trail and the Stallings Volunteer Fire Department regarding leasing a fire truck to their department.
And all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Marcus.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, thank y'all.
Okay, that brings us to interlock agreement, Mr. Hunsinger and an attorney, Ms. Cox.
I'll let the attorney do this.
Okay,
There's a memo in your agenda packet, because of the potential conflict of interest. I don't want to be put in a position to be asked too many specific questions about the interlocal agreement as it pertains to you all, because as you know, Ms. Walter is representing Town of Indian Trail and recommended that you approve the interlocal agreement. I can let you know that the Town of Stallings last night approved a motion to approve the interlocal agreement contingent on the Town of Indian Trail approving the same tonight. And they also approved a motion authorizing the town manager to execute the amendment to the development agreement with Atrium Hospital contingent on the Town of Indian Trail passing the interlocal agreement.
okay. So what is the recommendation here? We've got a motion here, so do we want to go ahead?
Before I make the motion, I'll make the motion. That's what you're looking for, right?
Yes, the first thing I would ask you to do is to adopt the conflict of interest statement, and you can do that in terms of a motion under the North Carolina Rules of Professional Responsibility. When there's a potential conflict, I need to get a understanding and waiver of the client's in writing.
All right. And that is in regards to the interlocal agreement, is in regards to the monies that Stallings would pay to Indian Trail from Atrium in regards to the Indian Trail Road improvements because of the construction of the hospital, correct?
Correct.
All right. So, ready?
Yes, go ahead if you'd
All
like to
right.
do it.
So, I'll make a motion, having been fully informed of the conflict of interest and attorney Melanie Cox's reasonable belief that she will be able to provide competent and diligent representation to the Town of Indian Trail, notwithstanding the conflict of interest, and further, having been informed that Indian Trail has the right to seek other counsel to represent its interests in the matter, I make a motion to approve to Mrs. Cox's continued representation of the town for the purpose of approving the interlocal agreement.
All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. That brings us to
Interlocal
yeah,
agreement.
okay, we do need an interlock agreement, another motion for interlock agreement for the construction of road improvements in Stallings and IT.
Do you need to say something, Mr. Manager? You were going to say something before I make a motion?
Now, I think you ought to go ahead and make the motion. This is something we've talked about, and we're good if y'all approve the motion.
May I proceed, Mr. Mayor?
Go right ahead.
All right. I make a motion to approve the interlocal agreement between the Town of Indian Trail and the Town of Stallings for construction and road improvements for the Complete Street project upon the recommendation of Attorney Karen Walter.
All in favor? Unanimous. Very good, thank you. Very good, that brings us to the IT admin position, Mr. McLaurin.
You don't have a memo in your package. Several of you I've talked to about this. We have been trying to recruit an IT professional for this building for several months. We started out with part-time. We've had not a whole lot of applications. We did have 2 good ones, and both of them turned us down. They were looking for full-time. We would recommend that we move this position, change it from part-time to full-time. We think we'll get a better crop of candidates, better quality. There is a little bit of budget difference of maybe $23,000. However, what we want to do tonight, if we can get a nodding of the head that we would like to move this from part-time to full-time, we will put it on your consent agenda along with the pay plan, the job description, etc. We would, assuming you formally approve it in September, we would start to advertise. We would probably do a hire date around November 1st, which means there would be no change in the budget. We would absorb that salary lapse.
Any comments? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, why do we have to wait for September if you're telling me and Jim is there, Jim can give a head nod saying that the position is, we can afford it. You haven't been able to fill anybody on a part-time basis. I think I would be supportive of approving this from part-time to full-time tonight, giving you the ability to go out and advertise and try and bring some candidates in before. because it's a position that's needed. It puts a lot of pressure on Mrs. Ball in terms of some of the things, and we've talked about that for quite a bit. So that's my personal opinion. There are 5 other people here. I mean, they can express theirs as well.
Well, I appreciate you offering a personal opinion. Is this budgeted for full-time already, or would have to be a budget amendment?
It will not have to be a budget amendment if we hire on November 1st. I think the reason we want to bring it back for formal ratification is under our rules and procedure. We have to bring you a job description and the comp plan. I think that's right. Is that right, Miss? But we could go ahead and start to make some steps so that we could pull the trigger as soon as we're ready to go.
Mike, I'm still concerned about, why we can't farm this out, to a company that does this kind of work. And not to say we don't need that, but my thought process is the company that's currently doing all our IT stuff, the back office or what have you, they're not interested in doing the stuff that we need to get accomplished. But there's no other organization, no company out there that does this kind of stuff?
Well, I'm sure there are companies. My experience has been when we have someone on site and when emergencies pop up and Ms. Ball can give you chapter and verse, it's much easier to have the employee on site that they can go ahead and start to work on it. Also, we're starting to deploy some new software, particularly in our budget process. So it would be good to have someone that could help facilitate that implementation.
So there is enough work for a full-time person to be busy? I'm not trying to be, I get it, what we need. However, will they have a multi-role? Will they just be dealing with, say there's something wrong with Adam's computer, he'll be able to jump down there? Is that what you're looking for?
Right. I think initially it will be a little bit slow, but my experience has been in another town where we started an IT program. It grows very quickly. For example, we're trying to do Wi-Fi in the parks, and you would think that would be a really simple thing to do, but trying to negotiate with Wi-Fi providers, cable providers, and coordinate the installation is much more involved than you would envision.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to go down the line here. First of all, I agree also, just my 2 cents worth, I agree that we should get a full-time person. I think if you say it, staff says it, we need it, and it's a good thing. I'm not here to see a lot of things, but I trust, in what you guys
Thank you.
Say. But what I'll do is go down the line, and that way we can go ahead and do it. Councilman McIntyre, are you in favor of the full-time?
Yes, sir.
How about you, Mr. Gray? Mr. Crystal?
Yes.
Okay, so,
Okay.
all right.
Okay. We'll put it, look for it on the consent agenda here in a couple weeks.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to award PE services contract for Indian Trail Complete Street Phase 2. Come on up, Todd.
I'm about to say, you don't know how to pronounce Huntsinger? Is that why you didn't say it?
No, I can say Huntsinger.
First off, wanted to take you back to the budget workshop. We kind of talked about this a while back, and I referenced that in my wants and needs was to go ahead and pursue PE contract to facilitate another phase of this project. Now, this project, just so you know, you see it on the your agenda, but again, it's where our Complete Street project right now is from Gribble Road to Liberty. And so the council decided, okay, well, why don't we move forward and continue on with the Complete Street beyond both sides of the Indian Trail Road. And so in doing that, I threw out a number about $500,000 it'd probably take to start that design process based on the fact that it costs that much to do the phase 1. So from basically Liberty Gribble Road to the Food Line entrance is basically what we maintain right now as a town. we don't maintain from Ulmer Road back to Food Line Entrance because that's going to get improved based on the Ulmer Road widening project. So that's why we didn't take over that section. We also are not going to go all the way to 74. We're going to take it all the way to Post Office Drive because, again, they've already made improvements, so it makes sense, right? Once I asked for that, y'all gave the head nod to move forward. So we've been advertising this before this FY started, and we got through the RFQ process around July 6th. And we have approved the amount based on the proposal you gave us for $720,000. So I'm here tonight for an approval to move forward with PE services for Indian Trail. Sorry, see a lot of projects going on. Indian Trail Road, Phase 2, Complete Street. Any questions?
We don't have any questions. Can I get a motion?
Yeah. I make a motion to approve awarding the PE services contract for Indian Trail Complete Street Phase 2 to RS and Edge, not to exceed an amount of $720,000.
All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Thank you, Mr. Hunsinger. Okay, that brings us to new business. Proclamation rescinding the state of emergency. I'm going to ask our attorney, Ms. Cox, if you'll explain basically what that is.
Yes, sir. Pursuant to North Carolina general statutes, when a local municipality declares a state of emergency, you then have to take certain steps to rescind that state of emergency. On August 15th of this year, the governor is rescinding the state of emergency for North Carolina. And when that state of emergency was adopted or proclaimed, certain statutes were adopted that allowed towns to meet remotely. And you're only allowed to meet remotely if you're in a state of emergency. So once that state of emergency goes away, we no longer have the ability to do that. So we're just asking you to rescind the state of emergency in Indian Trail, and the only major effect I see it having on you all would be the ability to meet remotely.
Okay, thank you. And I'm
Attorney
going to
Cox?
read
Can you
basically.
just clarify the remote policy, that has nothing to do with our remote policy that we have, for clarification? Just, we have a remote meeting policy that it operates differently and doesn't affect, that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
For instance, if Marcus is in the islands, he can come out. Is that what you're talking about?
According to we will now operate under our remote policy.
Right. You still need a quorum present in.
A physical presence,
Right,
quorum.
right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So have we got that covered? We got that? Okay, all right. Now therefore, the mayor and town council of the town of Indian Trail hereby proclaim as follows: the state of emergency in the town of Indian Trail is hereby rescinded, and the restrictions, prohibitations implemented upon the state of emergency are hereby terminated. Town manager is directed to conspicuously post notice on the town's website stating that the state of the emergency declared by the town of Indian Trail is responsive to the COVID-19 pandemic is rescinded, and that the restrictions and prohibitations implemented under the town state of emergency are terminated. The proclamation shall become effective on August 15th, 2022. So, is that all we need to do there? We don't need to make a motion or anything. We're okay, just sign that and we're done. Okay, very good. All right, that brings us, and thank you, Ms. Cox. I appreciate you explaining that. No discussions items, no close. Let's see, let's move down to manager's update. Mr. McLaurin.
Yes, sir. It's been a good meeting. Y'all have done some really good work here, and I'm really impressed with the work that y'all are doing, that you do regularly for the citizens of the town, and that's what it's all about. And one of the things that's important to me as your manager is periodically, let's take a deep breath and let's look back over our shoulder and see what we've accomplished over the last year. And when I say we, I mean the leadership of this council, the hardworking employees that you see here, and I'm just blessed to be part of it to kind of help out a little bit. So if you would indulge me for the next few minutes, I'm going to run through some slides of what we call our FY22 year-end review. So, you know, we kind of get caught in the minutia of how town government is organized, what department does what. And so I want to start off by kind of walking through the various departments, and then kind of near the back half of the presentation talk about Indian Trail by the numbers. The other thing I want to mention while I'm thinking about it, you know, some of you we see more often than others, but I had a board member tell me the other day, said, you know, I really don't know the employees, so if you ever want to come by and just meet some of the employees, just call ahead, let me know, we'd be glad to have you. And, you know, that opportunity is open for you, and I know that a lot of our employees volunteered at National Night Out, and I think we had a good time, and some of you got a chance to meet some of those folks that maybe you don't see in a given day. So, as you know, the admin section, we have roughly 5 employees, and we do what admin does. We kind of cover the business of the town. I supervise all the employees except for the attorney. Everybody works through the chain of command up to the manager. Your clerk does an excellent job keeping the records and knowing the history, and I work for the council. Y'all set the policy, and I work to carry it out. You know Carrie back here in the back, and you see Abby on a regular basis. And one of the things we do when we get a public records request, it takes a lot of time, but we get that done also. Also in the admin, we coordinate a lot of the training. You see some of the things on your screen. You know, I'm sad to admit that we have to have active shooter training, but it's a different world than we're living in just 10 years ago. But we're constantly looking at our training and how do we upgrade that. What you see there is all the staff training, but we also have folks that are attending individual trainings. As we've come out of COVID, one of the things I really wanted to do, one of the things I'm committed to, is making training and professional development opportunities available to any and all employees, and I appreciate them doing that. Also, I want to commend the council because back in 2020, you approved an educational reimbursement program. Many of you were not on the council when that occurred, but that has been a program that has been very successful, and our employees are taking advantage of it. Some of our employees are working on master's degrees, and others are getting other forms of higher education. We're also into wellness. We typically have a Wednesday walkabout where we walk the Infinity Trail and back. If it's 90-plus degrees, we may not walk quite as far. And we're also doing wellness screenings, because if we have an employee that has an illness that we can find on the front end, it's a whole lot easier to treat it then than later. Oh, let me back up. It is a employees market. Public Works is down 42% employees. We are recruiting for several positions, but it is kind of hard to recruit these days. But we did do 9 successful placements and 6 part-time placements. Also in the admin, Kathy worked very hard to coordinate the municipal code update, and Abby coordinated the bandwidth for Town Hall. And I want to remind you, she is an award-winning employee by having 2nd place in the Excellent in Communication. So people are beginning to notice Indian Trail, and we certainly appreciate the funding that you make available for these things to occur. Engineering, Mr. Hunsinger runs that department. He is doing a lot of project management, a lot of planning. He coordinates also the stormwater program and does some public outreach. He is extremely busy, and how he keeps it up, I have no idea. We are currently maintaining 79.57 miles of road. If you'll notice, we have gained 24 miles of streets in 10 years, and that number will exceed over 80 if it hasn't already. We have 30 CIP projects working, and that number, $30.8 million in transportation projects, we went back and recalculated that today. Actually, the correct number is 32,800,000 in transportation projects. That's CIP projects. You've never done this many CIP projects at one time, and you should commend yourself. That money comes not only from local money, it comes from federal money. The resolution you just passed added another 1.3 from Atrium that's going to help out. And some of these projects go back as much as 18 years. Adam told me this afternoon that Chestnut Parkway originally started out 18 years ago with the Williams Rescue Road study. And so they take a long time to get to fruition, but we've had, you know, the 5 projects right here that's now in fruition that we're moving forward. And so one of the things that will happen is over the next 2 years, you'll be doing a whole lot of road construction, okay? But now you need to be thinking about, as that road construction is wrapping up, what is the next level? What is the next thing that we need to take on? You heard Captain James earlier talk about trying to cross town with traffic. We're not built on a grid system, but we are. Wesley Stouts, I think they're building a bridge over the railroad tracks over the next few years. We're changing the face of Indian Trail Road. That will be a major focus of this town. And you've got Chestnut Parkway. So in the next few years, you potentially have 3 ways to cut across town. So I commend you on that. I also want to mention, not counting the CIP projects I just mentioned as far as the $32,800,000, is we're doing $2.5 million in street resurfacing, okay? The thing to take away from that is, I know that people say we need to put more money in transportation. We're putting a lot in there now. We can always put more. But some of these projects are state roads, so it kind of hampers us a little bit. But I congratulate you on your investment in transportation. I would encourage you to keep on doing what you're doing. You see some of the accomplishments over in the engineering department. The watershed management study, if you remember, that's going to be a 13-month study. We expect to see some recommendations coming out before that's completed. If you go down on Old Monroe Road towards Brandon Oaks, we got Indian Trail Park. That neighborhood is completely changed because of the work that they did with stormwater. First Avenue Stormwater Project, Mr. Mayor, I think you told me y'all talked about that maybe 15 years or so ago.
About 15 years ago.
Long time. 5-year capital improvement plan, and we did a pavement condition study. Now, what that means, and we're in better shape than a lot of towns, because I heard about a town in eastern North Carolina last week that they did a pavement condition study, and 60% of their roads were failing or fair to poor condition. Fortunately, y'all have done a better job in that town, but we're basing our paving decisions based on actual pavement condition studies as opposed to we want to pave this today and that tomorrow. Stormwater contract, we completed that. Finance does a good job with financial integrity. Your auditors are here. They're very pleased with what they're seeing and the schedule that they're making. If you want to stop by and speak to them, I know a number of you happen to be in the building, had a chance to tell them hello. Jim and his folks do a good job with the 6 employees they have, and they take your money, and sometimes people aren't happy about paying taxes, but knock on wood, I never have had a complaint about rude service at the front counter. That means a lot. That shows the quality of the people that are here, people that are working the front counter, and they're to be commended. Jim and his folks do an excellent job in putting the budget together. It'll be automated next year, and so we want to make each year's budget tell a story as to this is the money we're spending, this is what we're getting for our money. It's all part of accountability, you know that. I keep harping about the AAA rating. I guess I'll do it as long as I'm here because it's something to be proud of. Again, 99% tax collection rate. You should be very proud of that. And if you'll remember when we sold the bonds last year, we sold it right at the bottom of the interest curve. Right after we sold those bonds, you started to see the interest start to rise. So We saved a lot of money by timing it the way that we did. What can I say about Parks and Recreation? Well, that's, when people look to locate at a town, one of the things they look at is what is the quality of life of the town? Is there some place that I can carry my kids or I can participate? Maybe I'm an older person, maybe I'm middle-aged. Is there a greenway I can walk on and feel safe? In personal case, my wife keeps my, Mr. Mayor, great-grandson, yeah, I know. And every day, I think she sends me pictures about Jackson is here at this splash pad, or look at Jackson over here on the swing set. Parks touches people at whatever stage of life they're at. All of us were at National Night Out, and I remember seeing a family as they were leaving said what a great time they had. In a few months we'd do, the Halloween festivities. It's very common, and we did this today. As I pulled into this building, there were 2 camps going on. There was one inside the building with some small kids learning various art stuff, and there was an athletic camp by the tennis courts. And there were also some older folks getting ready to take a trip somewhere. And so this building is paid for by the people, and it makes me so excited when we can offer programs that from 8 or 2 to 80 years old that we can serve their needs. We've talked about soccer fields and kids 2 to 12. That creates memories for kids because they will remember when I was a child, I played on this field. So forgive me for being a little bit excited about that, but I think it's a good story to tell. You see the numbers, over 2,000 rentals. Dog parks, one of the best in the land. My grandson and my wife did slip over and play disc golf at Crooked Creek and gives it a 5-star rating. You see our 19 events with over 55,000 people. We are about to complete work on a story walk and an ADA. Those are all joint together, and so we're going to have a ribbon cutting pretty soon, and we'll invite y'all out there. Lighting detection, T-Box, I've already mentioned that. We've already talked about Land Design and McAdams, and they have their mission and goal statement is to create memories. Planning department, that's another hard-working department led by Brandy Deese. They do some things that sometimes they have to give bad news to people pertaining to zoning or planning or code enforcement. If a neighborhood has a bad code enforcement problem in the neighborhood, it'll be 1 house today, 2 tomorrow, 4 the next day, and 8. Doing code enforcement, I've done a little bit of that in my career. It can be very unpleasant when you tell someone they have to cut their grass or move their junk car that they bought when their kid was 16 years old and they were going to fix up. Now the kid's 45 years old and moved away. But they do a great job. Rarely get a complaint, if at all, from that department. As you can see what they do a lot of plan reviews, and Brandy is up here on a regular basis. Commend her and her staff for completing the comp plan. They have the downtown plan underway. You see the amount of acres that we annexed, and you see the code enforcement activities. Public Works, this is another hard-working department led by Adam, 3 with 12 employees. Today's Pam's last day. Laurie is moving from planning and will be the new Pam starting tomorrow, I think. They're maintaining the streets, the parks, the vehicles. You see the stormwater projects. I think you might have seen this a month or so ago. We had over 800 Crooked Creek Park events that they set up for. Because they are down 42%, it's taking a while to get things done. We'll put it on the list and get to it as soon as we can. You spent a lot of time working on a solid waste contract. That's rolling in now as we speak. And I got 2 award winners in this department, Mike Wright, who I think many of you know, and Cody McHarn. And I think that is all. I want to thank you for listening to me. I want to thank you for the funding decisions and the leadership that you provide. And I want to thank you for the support that you give our folks.
Thank you, Mr. McLaurin. Great presentation. Thank you for doing that. That brings us to council comments.
Councilmember Ambergy.
I was going to do my joke, is this thing on? Clarence, thanks for the nice comments this afternoon, or this evening. I really care about, our redheaded stepchildren, the fire department, as they told me. But I just, think that this was a solid meeting and some great information, and God bless all the department heads and all the workers in the town, because it's stressful when you're shorthanded, and try to get projects done. Other than that, God bless y'all.
Councilmember Gay.
Mike, I'd like to thank you. That business development is close to my heart, and just a short story. One time I was with somebody years ago that was in business development here, and we had a situation with a property where they only had a septic tank, and the question to the business development person was, what would go real well there? And they mentioned a great big office building, and you can't run that on a septic tank. So I appreciate you taking your time to find somebody who understands waterworks and gas lines and power and that sort of thing, and make sure that we get the right person for the job. So anyway, I hope everybody has a nice evening and is safe going home. Talk to you next month, I guess.
Councilmember Buholic.
Again, I just want to thank everyone for coming out. Captain James, you and your staff do a great job. I think National Night Out showed the support from our community. So thank y'all for everything you do. And yeah, have a good night. Everybody drive home safe.
Councilmember Barber.
Okay. Maybe planning department can come by my house and tell some kids to mow the yard. But anyway, it might help me out. So anyway, happy birthday, Mr. Jim Wateridge. It's Friday, correct? All right, 39, something like that, huh? Anyway, happy birthday. Hope you have a good one. I'd like to thank Ms. Ball and the mayor for inviting me into Facebook Live. We seemed like we had a large audience. It helps that people tune in to see a mayor with those Richard Gere Hollywood looks, I guess. So but I appreciate Captain James and Ms. Deese and Mr. McLam and Mr. McLaurin for giving me information. I thought we were able to get out some real good, high-level information to the public, and I thought it went real well. Thank you for the invitation. The American Indian Cultural Day, I believe, is Saturday, August 27th. Is that correct? Is that Carolina Courts? We have the Hits After 6 on Thursday, 18th, and that's at Crooked Creek, correct? No? Chestnut? Chestnut, okay. And 2 more days for school supplies you're collecting here, and Town Hall looks like a lot. So other than that, appreciate everybody. Thanks for the staff and everything you do, and everybody enjoy the last couple of weeks before school starts. Thank you.
Councilmember McIntyre.
Thank you. Mr. McLaurin, thank you very much for that presentation. Staff, want to say thank you to all of you for a job well done. Captain James, you guys again coming through, directing traffic, keeping us moving. For those of you who were able to get out to National Night Out, it was a really good time. For the record, all the hot dogs that you ate that were burnt, Todd Barber is the one who grilled them. So you know where to go. I only cook the good ones. So if you got a good one, that was from me. Otherwise, the other ones were from Todd. Jim, as Todd mentioned, happy birthday to you. Say it a couple days early, but everybody else, have a very good evening. Appreciate it. Clarence, good comments there on the fire trucks. I think that was well deserved. And everybody have a good evening. Thank you.
Very good. Again, and I thought it was a good presentation by the town manager tonight. And one of the things I thought of when you were doing that is you were talking about $32.8 million, and what we're doing with roads and transportation. I'm lucky enough to be here over the years and know that 9 years ago, a lot of those ideas and things were presented. it then. So what I'm saying now as a council, we need to come up with ideas that 8, 9 years from now, when we're doing things, that the council can look back and say, thank this council for doing, things that are getting processed. Because as we've learned here, that in government, things didn't go nearly as fast as it does in a lot of things. You got a lot of things you have to go, a lot of different avenues you have to take. But anyway, I thought that was a very good job. Adam, I wanted to commend you on when we had public comments. That was very nice to have someone that is knowledgeable as you are that could answer her question and know exactly. And I think that they have a legitimate beef. And hopefully we can help. Maybe we can, maybe we can't, but I hope we can. And all we can do is try. So I appreciate that. I don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong back there, if Mr. Hayden, I believe we were rated the best park in Union County, Crooked Creek, if we weren't in the newspaper last week. So that made me proud, and I'm sure that made you proud. And I hate to say it, but it's kind of like we're always, isn't it always rated the #1 park in Union County? And that's something to be proud of. You do a good job, and, it's part of what Indian Trail is known for. So that's fantastic. It hits after 6. I enjoy that. I hope to see everybody out there. Is that on the 18th? 18th. That's a lot of fun. Please come out. Jim, I know it's your birthday on Friday. Happy birthday. Believe it or not, there's cake back there for you. And there's some good cake back there for you. It just has David written on it. But I want you, listen, I want you to take that home with you and take that for your family. Lastly, but not least, back to school bash. I actually saw, and I need to kick myself because I should remember the lady's name. She's a very prominent name in our neighborhood, and I will have her name the next meeting. Did a lemonade stand for the back to school bash, I think Sunday. And I looked, and they raised $375 selling lemonade, and took all the money and spent it for back to school bash. And it's those things that make Indian Trail a great place to live. And we have lots of residents here that do that. And I was very happy. My daughter, who just graduated college in May, and has her my 4-month-old grandchild, brought me a book bag and lots of stuff. And she said, "Daddy, I want you to take that down." And I was very proud of her. So, and my wife was out shopping tonight for some back to school bash stuff. But anyway, let's get it all excited about the back to school bash. With that being said, I'm very proud to be up here. I'm very proud to be a part of this council. Very proud to be a part of working with the people that we have that work here. You are the best at what you do, and I appreciate it. With that being said, God bless and good night. And can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, sir.
All in favor?